Fazza looked up, slightly surprised. It was an older man sitting a few tables away, watching him with a knowing expression. Fazza didn't respond immediately, unsure if the comment was meant for him. But the man continued. They come into our lives to teach us something, and then they leave. Fazza let out a quiet breath. What if you don't want them to leave? The man smiled faintly, not unkindly. That doesn't change whether they stay. There was something painfully true about that. Meanwhile, Ara's world was moving forward, even if her heart felt stuck somewhere in the past. Preparations for her wedding had begun. Colors, dresses, decorations, conversations about a future she was expected to step into without hesitation. Everyone around her seemed happy, excited, certain. But she felt like she was watching it all from a distance, like it wasn't really her life unfolding. Her fiancé, Zayn, was everything people would call perfect. Kind, responsible, respectful. He treated her well, spoke to her gently, and tried to understand her silences. But there was something missing, something he couldn't give her, no matter how hard he tried. And that something had Fazza's name written all over it. She hated herself for feeling that way. Because Zayn didn't deserve half love. And Fazza didn't deserve to be forgotten. One evening, as she stood in front of a mirror trying on a dress for her upcoming engagement ceremony, she caught her own reflection, and for a moment, she didn't recognize herself. The girl staring back looked composed, beautiful, ready. But inside, she felt like she was breaking in places no one could see. Her phone buzzed suddenly, pulling her out of her thoughts. For a split second, her heart reacted before her mind could stop it. She reached for it quickly, a flicker of hope rising without permission. But it wasn't him. It never was. She put the phone down slowly, her expression unreadable. That hope, that tiny, stubborn part of her that still expected him to appear somehow, it refused to die. Days later, fate did something neither of them expected. They met again. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It just happened. Fazza was walking through a bookstore, not really looking for anything specific, just trying to fill time, trying to escape his thoughts. And then he saw her, Ara, standing a few shelves away, holding a book she clearly wasn't reading. For a moment, everything froze. Time, breath, thought. All of it. She looked up and their eyes met. There it was again. That same unspoken connection. Unchanged. Unfinished. Neither of them moved at first. Then, slowly, almost instinctively, Fazza walked toward her. Each step felt heavier than it should have, like he was walking into something he knew would hurt. "Hi," he said softly. Ara's lips parted slightly, but no words came out immediately. "Hi," she finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. There was so much they could have said. And yet, nothing felt enough. "How have you been?" he asked, even though the question felt meaningless. "Fine," she said. He nodded. "Yeah, me too." They both knew it wasn't true. Silence settled between them again, thick and uncomfortable. But beneath that silence, there was something louder, everything they weren't saying. Fazza glanced at her hand. The ring was there. A simple detail. A devastating reality. "I'm happy for you," he said, even though the words felt like they were cutting through him as they left his mouth. Ara looked at him then, really looked at him. And for a brief second, her composure cracked. "Are you?" she asked quietly. Fazza didn't answer. because he didn't know how to lie that convincingly. I tried to forget you, she admitted suddenly, her voice trembling just enough to give her away. I really did. He swallowed hard. Did it work? She shook her head. Barely. Then why are we pretending like it has to? He asked, a hint of frustration slipping through. Because it does, she said firmly, even as her eyes betrayed her. Why? He pushed. Because some stories don't get a choice, she replied. That hit him harder than anything else. Because deep down, he knew she was right. And yet, knowing didn't make it easier. They stood there for a few more moments, caught between what they felt and what they were supposed to do. Finally, Ara stepped back slightly, creating distance where none of them wanted it. Take care of yourself, Fazza, she said. He nodded slowly. You too. And just like that, they walked away. Again. But this time, it felt heavier. Because now, they both knew. It wasn't just love. It was love that would never belong. Fazza walked away that day from the bookstore, but it felt less like walking and more like leaving a part of himself behind. Every step forward was heavy, as if something invisible was still holding him back. Ara didn't turn around either. She stayed there between the shelves, frozen in a moment that neither of them had the courage to fully live or fully leave. After that meeting, silence returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't just absence anymore. It was awareness. They both knew now that love still existed between them, alive and breathing somewhere beneath all the restrictions of reality. And that made everything more dangerous. Fazza tried to distract himself with work, with friends, with anything that could pull his thoughts away from her. But the human heart is not obedient. It doesn't forget just because you tell it to. Every quiet moment dragged her back. Every familiar place whispered her name. Even random strangers in the street reminded him of her. Just a glance, just a voice, just a feeling. And Ara, she was no different. Her wedding preparations continued, but her soul felt like it was walking in the opposite direction of her life. She would sit in front of mirrors for hours, dressed in outfits that symbolized a future she was expected to accept. Everyone around her spoke of happiness, but nobody asked if it was real happiness or just duty wearing a beautiful mask. Zayn noticed her silence more than anyone else. He was patient, understanding, gentle, but even patience has limits when it is met with emotional distance. One evening, he finally asked her something he had been holding back for a long time. Is there someone else in your heart? Ara's hands froze. That question wasn't loud, but it was honest enough to break something inside her. She didn't answer immediately, because lies no longer felt possible, and truth felt like destruction. I don't know how to explain it, she finally said, voice trembling. Zayn didn't shout. He didn't get angry. He just nodded slowly, as if he already understood more than she had spoken. And in that silence, Ara realized something terrifying. She had been living in two worlds, and both were starting to collapse. Fazza, on the other hand, reached a breaking point of his own. One night, unable to hold it anymore, he stood alone on a rooftop overlooking the city. The wind was cold, sharp, real, unlike everything else he had been feeling lately. He pulled out his phone, opened Ara's chat, and stared at it for a long time. Typing, deleting, typing, deleting. His fingers trembled. Finally, he wrote just one line. Do you ever miss what we were? Or am I the only one still stuck there? He didn't expect a reply. But minutes later, his phone vibrated.